Imagine this. The year is 1461. The skies are darkened with swirling snow, an icy wind howls across the barren fields, and tens of thousands of men, friends, brothers, fathers, stand face to face, ready to kill or be killed. The rivers will run red with blood, and the snow will conceal the bodies of the fallen. This is the Battle of Towton, the largest and bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil, a day so brutal that it would define the fate of a kingdom. But how did we get here? How did this quiet Yorkshire countryside become the stage for such carnage? And why was this battle so pivotal in the Wars of the Roses? Stay tuned, because today, we're diving deep into the chilling story of Towton, where ambition, betrayal, and desperation collided in one of history's most harrowing episodes. Chapter 1: Seeds of Conflict. Our story begins decades earlier, in a divided England ruled by a frail and troubled king. Henry VI inherited the throne as an infant but grew up to be a weak and indecisive ruler, prone to bouts of madness. His inability to lead left England in turmoil. The nobility, frustrated by Henry's incompetence, began scheming for power, and soon two rival houses, York and Lancaster, emerged to vie for control of the throne. At the heart of this conflict was Richard, Duke of York. A man of royal blood, Richard was determined to remove Henry's corrupt advisors and restore order to England. His ambitions culminated in the Act of Accord, a fragile agreement that named him as Henry's heir, bypassing Henry's young son, Edward of Westminster. But this deal enraged Queen Margaret of Anjou. Fiercely protective of her son's birthright, she refused to accept the accord and began rallying the Lancastrians for war. Margaret's fury was matched only by her cunning. She promised her supporters the freedom to plunder and raised a formidable army in the north. The flames of civil war were reignited, and battles erupted across England. Richard, Duke of York, met a gruesome end at the Battle of Wakefield in December 1460, his severed head displayed on a spike in the city of York. But his death was not the end of the Yorkist cause. It was the beginning of its most ferocious chapter. Richard's son, Edward, stepped forward to claim his father's mantle. Tall, charismatic, and just 18 years old, Edward had a clear goal: to avenge his father and secure the throne. The stage was set for a confrontation that would forever alter the course of English history. Chapter 2: The Road to Towton. The Lancastrians had the advantage. Their army, bolstered by northern magnates and loyal nobles, was vast and experienced. They also controlled York, a strategic stronghold. Edward, meanwhile, was gathering his forces in London. But he wasn't content to wait. Declaring himself King Edward IV, he offered amnesty to commoners who renounced their allegiance to Henry VI, rallying thousands to his cause. The Yorkist army marched north in 3 columns, determined to confront the Lancastrians. Along the way, they clashed at Ferrybridge, a brutal skirmish that tested Edward's leadership. Lancastrian forces led by Lord Clifford ambushed the Yorkists as they attempted to cross the River Aire, causing chaos and heavy losses. But Edward quickly regrouped, sending his cavalry to outflank Clifford's men. The Lancastrians were routed, and Clifford was killed by an arrow to the throat. With the path to Towton cleared, the Yorkists pressed on, driven by vengeance and ambition. Chapter 3: The Largest Army in England's History. By March 29, 1461, 2 massive armies had gathered near the village of Towton. The Lancastrians, led by the Duke of Somerset, held the high ground, their ranks bolstered by at least 30,000 men. The Yorkists, numbering around 25,000, were outnumbered but not outmatched. Edward's youthful charisma and strategic acumen inspired his men, while the Lancastrians relied on their sheer numbers and the defensive advantages of the terrain. As dawn broke on Palm Sunday, snow began to fall heavily, whipping across the battlefield in a relentless storm. It was a fitting backdrop for what would become one of the darkest days in England's history. The Lancastrians had fortified their position, using the valley as a natural barrier. But Edward had a secret weapon: Lord Fauconberg, a veteran commander renowned for his military prowess. Fauconberg devised a bold strategy, taking advantage of the wind and snow to give the Yorkists an edge in the opening phase of the battle. Chapter 4: The Battle Unfolds. Fauconberg ordered the Yorkist archers to unleash a volley of arrows, using the wind to carry them farther than usual. The Lancastrians, blinded by snow and unable to judge the range, returned fire, but their arrows fell short, littering the ground in front of the Yorkist lines. It was a devastating miscalculation. Seizing the moment, the Yorkist archers advanced, collecting the Lancastrians' spent arrows and turning them back on their foes. Under relentless fire, the Lancastrians were forced to abandon their defensive position and charge into hand-to-hand combat. For hours, the battlefield was a scene of unimaginable carnage. Soldiers hacked and slashed at each other in the driving snow, their screams drowned out by the clash of steel. Edward fought alongside his men, his towering figure a beacon of resolve. But even with his leadership, the Yorkists began to falter under the sheer weight of Lancastrian numbers. Chapter 5: A Turning Point. Just as hope seemed to fade, the Duke of Norfolk's reinforcements arrived. Cresting the ridge, they charged into the Lancastrian flank, catching their opponents off guard. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. The Lancastrians, exhausted and demoralized, began to retreat. But retreat did not mean safety. The Yorkists pursued them relentlessly, cutting down soldiers as they fled. The Cock Beck, a small river near the battlefield, became a death trap. Men drowned in its icy waters or were trampled by their comrades in the chaos. The snow-covered fields, already stained with blood, became a grim tableau of death. Chapter 6: Aftermath and Legacy. The victory at Towton was decisive. Edward IV had secured his crown, forcing Henry VI and Margaret of Anjou to flee into exile. The power of the Lancastrians was shattered, their forces decimated, and their leaders either dead or in hiding. But the cost of this victory was staggering. Chroniclers claim 28,000 men were killed, though modern estimates suggest the true number may have been closer to 10,000. Regardless, Towton left a deep scar on England's history, a chilling reminder of the brutality of civil war. Centuries later, mass graves discovered at Towton revealed the true horrors of the battle. Skeletons showed shattered skulls, broken limbs, and post-mortem mutilations, a testament to the ferocity of the combat. Towton wasn't just a battle. It was a massacre, a day when ambition and hatred overwhelmed humanity. Today, the Towton Cross stands as a memorial to those who perished. But for many, the battle has faded into obscurity, its significance overshadowed by more famous events in English history. Yet, for those who know its story, Towton remains a haunting reminder of the cost of power and the fragility of peace. This was Towton, a battle that changed England forever, a story of bloodshed and bravery, of kings and killers. What do you think drove men to such extremes? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we dive into another tale from the annals of history.